Hi, Kellee.
It's nice to meet you again.
It is so nice to spend time with you. And thanks for having me on your show today. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, well, we got to connect once before and we hit it off really well because we have a lot of similar ideology and how we love to help, how we love to serve. And you and I both have a big passion for business and marketing, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Even though our main vehicle tends to be teaching people how to create, there's still this like fiery passion about building a business. So
100%.
I would love for you to tell us just who you are and how you got to where you are. And apparently when I read over, you're the queen of being able to reinvent yourself.
For sure. Woof. Yeah, I'm really good at that. About every 8 to 10 years, I go through a phase of, okay, I'm done with that. What's next? Typical serial entrepreneur, creative, right? I get bored with things. So to give you just the sort of quick highlights, I thought I was going to be a college professor for the rest of my life. I have a PhD from Stanford in Spanish. My specialty was 19th and 20th century Latin American poetry. And I thought that was what was going to happen. And I didn't get hired right out of grad school by a university. I got hired by a private high school for troubled teens, which just set me on a whole beautiful life path. That's a longer story. And then when I got ready to start a family and I had my first two kids, Connor was 3, Maggie was 1, they're in their 20s now. I was so bored. I was not a good stay-at-home mom, Kellee. And I love my kids. Like parenting has been my greatest gift and my greatest challenge. And I love my kiddos, but being a stay-at-home was not for me. And I bow down and honor those women who just so are able to embrace that. It was not my path. So I started a parenting magazine, knowing nothing about entrepreneurship, knowing nothing about how hard it would be. I had a friend of my mom's that had a similar publication gift me the concept and the templates. And I just dove in thinking, well, how hard can it be? And as you know, starting a business is really hard.
It
But
is.
I did that for 10 years and I grew it from a tiny quarterly publication to a monthly magazine where we were printing 50,000 copies a month distributed all over the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. And
Wow.
then I got tired of it. My kids got tired. I told you I love marketing. I love meeting people and connecting. My kids got older. I wasn't as in touch with what those moms of preschoolers and elementary kids needed anymore. So I actually had someone come in and basically intern with me a year and then she took over the business. Now, this was in 2009, 2010 when everything was crashing. Print media was
Yeah.
completely imploding. It was a really rough time. It was amazing we survived that without having to file for bankruptcy, but we didn't. And we converted it all to digital long before our clients were ready. It was right when digital websites and digital magazines were really a thing. So it was a really fascinating transition to help educate our clients that were like ballet schools and preschools and dance schools and gymnastics and all those kind of kid related programs, help them understand how digital could serve them. They were still going to get the same impact. So it was a fascinating time. Walked away from that. So, and my big reinventions usually include a big move. So, we sold our house, we packed up our kids, sold the business, moved to Santa Barbara, California, where I sort of got pulled into business coaching for a decade. People are like, you're so good at business, you're so good at marketing and sales. I followed the money, followed the path. So, I did that for 10 years. And then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm bored. This is like not where my heart and my passion are. And we were empty nesters with a huge house, 5 bedroom, 3 bathroom house in Santa Barbara, California. And my husband was in a miserable job he was not happy in. So I transitioned my business to what I'm doing now. We sold our big house, cashed out at the top of the market, and
Mhm.
moved to Loveland, Colorado. And we've been here just a year. So I'm like, the fascinating part from a business perspective is I had this huge aha that, oh my God, I'm a baby in business again. Right. Like, so there are people on my list that have gone through all the transitions with me, but this is like a new audience, a new list, right? A new community, a new focus. And it's like, okay, back to basics, right? Like, who are my ideal clients? What's the right messaging? What is it that they need? Like, like you, I can geek out on business, but that's been my entrepreneurial path of just sort of following the threads in my heart's desires and then doing the hard boots on the ground work to get the foundations in place to make each one of those successful in their own way.
Right. So now what you're doing is focusing in on creativity and I get the impression it's a lot more about self-worth, self knowledge, self empowerment for women in their mid-year
Yes.
that many of us and most of my listeners find ourselves in.
Yeah,
The
same.
midlife part.
That midlife part. And it's interesting because I mean, I'm sure in your creative audience as well, we have clients of all ages, but mine tend to be 55 plus, in their 60s, in their 70s. I even have one who's in her 80s who's amazing. And they're like, well, we're past midlife, but they're still seekers, right? I think
Mhm.
the people that come into our creative communities, they're like us, they value continuous improvement and growth. But yes, the angle that I approach creativity as art is process. For me, art is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth and self development. It helps us bypass our overthinking, brilliant minds and go straight to the unconscious, to the heart and the gut of what's really going on with us so we can find the truth within and stop being so influenced by everything that's happening.
Yeah, this is true. And that's probably why I've taken up a more concerted practice in probably a lot of what you teach, which is kind of mindful doodling. If anything
Yes.
else to describe it, like I spend a lot of time just engaging the heart to the hand and not actually like I am planning on getting back into my whole art practice, but I needed a good solid break after all the building that I've done and all the work that I've done and like all of the teaching that I've done that I just really needed to get back to me. And so I've spent like a year just working on this practice of creating patterns and mark making and designs. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but what it does for me every day is gets me in a place of calm and an introspection. And like, I just feel so much better when I'm actually spending the time to do art that lights me up. Because sometimes
Yeah.
the work I was doing before wasn't really lighting me up because it was work. And I'm sure many
Right.
artists know that art, being an artist is actually work, but finding that peaceful balance has just been so nice. There's just so much that happens at this time, and I'm about to hit 50. So much that happens in this time of life. As the kids are getting older, they're all moving out. I have more time. I'm also facing the fact that 25 years of marriage and I'm looking at a husband that I have to reacquaint myself with again
Hmm.
because we move from parenting young kids to almost like, that fun, free spirited pre kid age
Yeah.
again. We have
Yeah.
to find that free spirit part. So, like, there's all these transitions happening. And so, I really appreciate that there are dynamic, amazing women like you that are out there helping guide us.
They do say that women in midlife are experiencing more transitions all at once in a short period of time than at any other time in our life. So I don't know if your parents are still alive, but you add aging parents to the mix.
Yes.
You add all the menopause and hormone and lack of
Yeah.
sleep and the body changes that are happening. So, there's so much like happening just within our own little bag of bones here, right?
Yeah.
In addition to all the things that are happening out there. And then when you add entrepreneurship to that,
Oh,
like
yeah.
we never walk away from it, right? I don't know about you, but even when I'm on vacation, I'm thinking about it. I'm planning. My husband and I go to dinner. He works with me. So we're brainstorming about it. So we have to be, make dedicated time to be together in a playful way that's not about business. And it's hard because we love it,
Yes.
right? It's not from a workaholic. I mean, I am an overachiever, but it's more from a, ooh, what could we do about this and what we could try about that. Like we're running successful Facebook ads right now, which is so exciting and took so long to get to the successful Facebook ad place, right? And it's like, okay, what are we going to try next? This is working, and can we repeat what worked this time? And so,
Hmm.
we get really jazzed about talking about all of these things. And he's writing now and has a couple of Substacks he's working on. So there's lots of conversations and we're reading a lot of the same books, and he's coming at that midlife from a different perspective. And one of the women he follows wrote a great article about, and because we think like business owners, she talks about the 4 quarters of your life,
Yeah.
right? And so in that 50 to 75, we're in Q3 of our lives, right?
Right.
And 75 and beyond, more of us are getting to that Q4. And,
Right.
when he saw that analogy and he immediately thought, oh, like football. 4 quarters of a football game. And yeah, so I immediately went to marketing. It's like Q1, Q2. But I think it's such an
Exactly. That's
interesting
what I'm like.
way.
We're quarter Q. I'm like, okay, what are we doing in this quarter of the year for business? How do we plan it
Yeah,
out? But I guess
yeah.
you're saying guys might think about football or
I
something.
know, it's so funny. Yeah, it's funny. He's a huge sports fan. And I don't know how I married like the Canadian guy who loves American football, right? But I did. And I love him and he loves sports of all kinds. But just that interesting conversation around how do we navigate all that change? And I don't know about you, but the number one thing from women that I hear is they're looking in the mirror going, I don't know who I am.
Hmm.
Like when you peel away and we never stop parenting, as you know, both
No, we
mine are
never.
gone, and
sometimes the 20s are just as hard as the teens, like we never stop parenting.
They've been harder for us.
Yeah,
The
in
20s
some
have been
ways.
harder for us in some big ways than, yeah, than the teenage years.
Things they
But
never tell you when you have kids.
mm, yeah. Or the things your kids tell you in your 20s, right? That they're pissed off about from a lifetime of
Oh
being
yeah, thanks, mom
parented
and
by
dad, you
you.
ruined my life. Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah, pretty
Have you
much.
gotten that too?
Oh
I
yeah,
love,
for
oh, yeah.
sure.
Doesn't matter how much
Yeah.
you love them or how hard you work to try and raise them right.
No,
There's no escaping making mistakes. And
no.
then because we are such, like I loved being a mom, stay-at-home mom and raising them, but it was also very
Yeah.
challenging for me,
Yeah.
which is why I was always looking for entrepreneurial outlets. Couldn't see myself going to work and leaving and then having the chaos of needing to be home if there was an emergency. But I needed something for myself. So I have always developed that. And where was I going with this was just that, what they're saying now, it's like no matter how hard I worked at being good at what I was doing, and I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm not perfect. I know I made mistakes, but like the house has been filled with love, but you still look back and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When I have 3 boys and they're like, oh mom, no, I'm gonna need therapy for a long time to get through. And I'm like, is there no way out of this? Right?
We just teased our kids and, all along we're like, there's the college fund and there's the therapy fund, right?
Right.
Because we just know no matter how hard we try. And my first coaching certification was actually as a parent coach, which was helpful as a parent. I never practiced as a parent coach. That's another story, mostly because parents want you to fix their kids. And usually we're the issue, not the kids.
Yep. Bingo.
And
That's it.
yeah, and but both of them are in therapy, right? Which is great. And it's just it is what it is. And a lot of the therapy is like personal, related to their lives and what's happened to them since, like how much has happened since the few years since they left home, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's all kind of fascinating to just watch and witness from a little bit of distance. When but it hurts our mama hearts when
It
our kids are
hurts our
hurting.
little
It
hearts.
oh
Yeah, I'm going through it right now. I'm very fortunate. I still have a close relationship with my kids, but I still know how sometimes disappointed they are that certain things happen and nothing. It was never, anyhow. I'm digressing, but I get what you're saying. Like
it's
they're
a
in their
hard
20s
moment,
now and
mama.
they're just honestly, I think what it is, and I remember that age, is they're going through trying to figure out how to be an adult and provide for
Yes.
themselves. And it's hard. So then it's very easy to outlet blame to, oh, it's not fair that I can make this much money and everything costs so much. So I feel like I'm not getting ahead and everyone's ruined the environment and the planet and
Oh yeah.
corporates and blah, blah, blah. And like all these things that they feel piled on them rather than
Yep.
the only thing, and we can't teach them, they have to learn the only thing they have control over is themselves. And like you
Right.
said, as a parent coach, it's difficult because they want you to fix their kid, but what
Right.
is a common denominator for everything? And this ties all the way back to what you do. We are our common denominator.
Always.
Right? So
Yeah.
in a relationship, if it's failing, the only thing you can fix is you. In a
Yeah.
business, if it's failing, really almost always the only thing you can do is fix you,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Same as
100%.
a
And I
parent,
would say business is a path of personal growth.
it
And
is
if you don't
absolute.
own that from the very beginning, you're going to struggle and fail.
Yep.
Right? Like I had to grow so much as a parent and become an adult, but as a business owner, holy cow, I had to face every one of my own demons.
Yep.
Right? All my fears, my money mindset, right? Those visibility issues.
Yeah. Which do you think is harder? This is a great question to have because I've been wondering this. I'm like, maybe I'm a little too distant from those exhausting early childhood days, but which is harder? Like they challenge you in different ways, but I would say there in some ways parenting is harder. But owning a business will push you to grow more.
I think I was emotionally invested enough in both. And I started my first business when my kids were 3 and 1. So I was past the sleepless stage, but still in a they were young, challenging
Uh-huh.
stage, right? So they were kind of equally hard, but I think they powerfully challenged me in very different ways, right? Like I had the same heartstrings attached to my business that I did to my kids, maybe not the level and the depth, but I don't know that I would compare them to me. They're apples and oranges. I just know they were both hard. And I'm way past those busy, exhausting days of being in business for the first time as well, where I was, the first year or two doing all the design for my magazine and all the delivery to the distribution, like,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to be with the kids and be homeroom mom. And I mean, I was involved in 3 chambers of commerce. Like I was crazy. I was doing it all the time. And then for me, I think one of those hard parts was like Connor was 10, so Maggie was about 7. And Brad and I felt so disconnected from each other because I was growing a business. He was working on his career. We're trying to raise these kids. And we were our own self care and attention to each other was at the bottom of the list.
Right.
So I think that trying to do it all at the same time was really challenging.
What about though the actual business, learning how to build a business and show up? Because these are the problems that most people with business
Yeah.
have is showing up, being visible, like you said, the
Yeah.
money mindset, even knowing that they're worthy of making the income, of asking for the sale, all those
Yeah.
kinds of things we go through. And for some people, it's harder than others. I have no doubt about that. But even still, the amount of growth that I've seen in myself since building a business and watching through the phases of it being unsuccessful and unprofitable for probably the first half, and
Yeah.
now seeing that time and distance, the commitment to it has really paid off, and like I really
Yeah.
see myself in a different way than I saw myself before.
For sure. One is so selling advertising in some ways it was hard and easy because I had never been in sales before. I was way more comfortable doing everything in person. And this was long before cell phones, the internet, any of that, right? So, everything was in person. And because I'm such a connector doing it, going to the Chamber of Commerce, meeting people for coffee, I just had a flashback to, and because it was a parenting magazine, I would just take my kids. Like I met somebody to have a sales conversation at a Starbucks and I lost attention of Maggie and I look over, she's standing on top of a table, dancing with her dress over her head, right in the
Oh
middle
my
of a
goodness.
Starbucks in her cute little cowboy boots. Holy moly. I'd meet people that also had kids at a McDonald's playground, right? So I had some flexibility that didn't make like I've never gotten used to cold calling. I still will not just pick up the phone and cold call someone. Even a girlfriend, I will text and say, hey, you got time to chat? Right? Like there's a definitely a permission thing there that
Hmm.
I worked over. Advertising was easy to sell because I could really understand and help articulate the benefits to a business of what it meant to advertise. And I had to learn all that. I didn't have all that language in the beginning. Everything was terrifying at the beginning. Networking, like standing up at my first chamber of commerce and saying, "Hi, I'm this little mom starting this magazine," right? Like all of it was hard. I turned beet red. I was shaking. I started speaking and I would like give a 20-minute talk in 5 minutes because I was so nervous. It would go so fast. Like everything was hard in the beginning. And then it got easy and then it got fun. And then I sold that and I started selling coaching and I was like right back at ground zero again
Yeah.
because selling coaching in the beginning felt like I was selling me. It wasn't a product, it was very personal. So
Yes.
that's when I really had to learn to do all of the money mindset. And the parenting magazine was never profitable. We just poured all the money back into the magazine. I had a
Hmm.
lot of shame around that. I had to heal the shame around that. Like we were grossing lots of money. I wasn't making money, right? And so I had to heal that shame. I had to be comfortable with, okay, this is what I'm selling now and what it looks like. And so for me, that first 5 years in my coaching business, in some ways, were even harder than the magazine because it was a different time period. Like I just went out and talked to people, right,
Right.
all the time, and it was really popular really fast. It was easy. So selling coaching was trickier. And then all of a sudden, I'm posting art online, and people are like, "Hey, can I buy your art?" And I'm like, "No, just come get it." And my husband one day he's like, "Why are you making this so hard?" And I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, because it feels hard to sell my art." So I had to again go through that growth of I got to put a price tag on my art, and it's still not my primary focus. I don't need another business, but it's fun when it sells, and that makes it easy to put price tags on things. And if I really love them, I just charge more money for them because I don't want to let them go. And people always pay the bigger price, as you know.
Right. I, I
Like
I
it's
get
been a
what you're saying.
fascinating journey.
I mean, totally. Like every time it's another level we have to break through. Every
Yeah,
time that we look at this and we have to stop and say, now, why am I undervaluing myself? Where is the
yeah,
block? What have I been told in my lifetime in society about being an artist, about being a creative, about being a coach, about being a
yeah.
woman? Like there's so much that we have to keep digging. And every time there's another layer, like as I'm
Every
growing my
time.
business now with coaching, I have to say, what is the end result? It's not just the time that they've spent with me,
Mm-mm.
and what am I delivering for them that will change their life? And so I
Yeah.
have to like stop and step back and say, okay, so take me out of the equation because I had all this fear around, there's a lot
Hmm.
of like feels like pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing, coaches, coaching coaches to be coaches, and they all just,
Uh-huh.
it's this
Yep.
regurgitation of crap
And
out
it
there.
feels incestuous a lot of times.
It feels incestuous. It feels like they're preying on people, like, trying to coerce almost people to, or they've done such a good job with marketing, which I love marketing, but they've done such
Yep.
a good job with marketing that they're convincing people who don't belong in their programs to spend
Yep.
thousands of dollars. And so I've
Yep.
had huge blocks for myself saying, can I show up and charge what is appropriate for the, results and
Yeah.
still feel good about it and not feel like I'm putting myself into that, nice little
Yeah.
pyramid multi-level marketing scheme
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
doing it ethically and consciously, and like I get it, and that, so there's just these big barriers we have to break through each time. I mean, it's even been
Mhm.
that way with selling art in the past. I'm like you, I don't really work too hard at selling my art because that's not my primary income or passion, though I do sell it
Yeah.
once or twice a year. I'll have a sale on my artwork, but yeah, I hear it's like every time we go through the next phase we have a new demon to
We
face.
do. We do. Yeah. And the other thing about when you start coaching, especially business coaching, like I learned that I had to let go of my attachment to my clients' results,
Yeah, I'm
right?
still
And to
learning
get
that.
over the sense of responsibility
Mhm.
when I could see their brilliance, I could see the path, I could tell them what the path was step by step, like here's what you do today and tomorrow, but I couldn't do the work for them and I couldn't want it for them. And to
Right.
me, that's the another place of growth as a coach, right? Was that opportunity to say, because I don't know about you. I mean, I've invested in anything from $5,000 to $25,000 a year coaching
Yeah.
programs. I work my ass off, right,
Yeah.
to
Every little
recoup that
penny I spent
investment.
needed a result for myself, right?
Yeah, yes, to make it worth that investment and to really benefit from the teachings that were shared. And so when I started running, big group programs myself and right, and I'm like, people are paying me all these thousands of dollars and they're not doing the work. I'm like, okay, something isn't working here. And that's like led me down the mindset path. Like no
Right.
amount of marketing strategy or business planning or time management and organizational skills will make a difference if you don't deal with your minds.
I mean, 1,000% yes. Like, how can you make that next move and boldly say, "This is for sale," if you haven't gotten
Yeah.
over all your crap,
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
coming, well, I have these discussions with them all the time that's like pricing and making the offer. Well, will it be too much to can I, and I'm just like, what is the value you're showing up with in this world? What is the gift that you're giving someone else?
Hmm.
Don't say, hey, if you want to, I mean, I'm sorry to bother you, but you could join my program if you really feel like it. Like, that's not
Yeah.
it. It's you got to get them to
Right.
the point where you have the confidence that you can show up and deliver what you've promised, so
Yeah.
much so that they're like, here, take my money, please. That's where we want
Yes.
to go. Because I've felt that when I'm buying something where I'm so glad to give the money because I know I'm getting what I want in return.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so we have to get to that point where we're creating something so good, whether it's an art course, painting, uh,
Hmm.
a coaching program, that we know our stuff. We're not, beginners at this anymore. We're masters, and that's why we're charging the fair price for a master's
Right.
worth of experience.
Yeah.
So that's a whole mindset hurdle, not really
It
a
is.
marketing problem at all.
It is not a marketing problem. And pricing is a marketing tactic, right? Like pricing has everything to do with it. And yeah, don't get me started. Maybe offline we'll go down the rabbit hole of these
Yeah.
programs that flood you with content and undercharge because I think they make it hard for a lot of the rest of people offering high
Mhm,
quality live programs because you also do have to take into account what the market is charging, right? And figure
mhm.
out where you are in relation to that and be able to clearly articulate the value when your price is higher. So, it's fascinating to me and it's a
So
it's a it's a
much.
game, right?
Yeah.
It definitely is a bit of a game.
That's why we stick with it, because we're always like, when you say, "Oh, I admit that I spend my evenings talking about and dreaming up the next thing that I need to do for the
Yeah,
business," but why is
yep,
that? Because in some ways it's just as fun as like binge watching a
it
TV
is.
show. I mean, like
It
sitting there
is.
planning with my notebook or having a long
Yeah,
conversation with a like-minded person that can really help push you to that next place, and you're dreaming up all kinds of wild ideas that you don't see other people doing, and you're like,
right.
that was a high worth doing. I don't need a drink. I don't need drugs.
Yep,
I don't need to
exactly.
jump out of planes.
Exactly.
Like, that's
No,
the excitement for me.
definitely not. No jumping out of planes. Like,
No
yeah,
jump.
I learned a long time ago, like pretty comfortable taking business risk and emotional risk, but not physical risk. Like
Yeah.
you won't find me jumping out of planes or bungee jumping or doing ropes courses. Like, no, thank you very much.
I like a little bit of physical challenge, but I'm with you on the jumping out of planes. Don't need it. It's like,
Yeah, well, physical challenge for me could be, going and hiking a mountain in Rocky Mountain National Park, right? Like,
that's enough, right?
that's or running another half marathon that I haven't done in a decade, right? Like
Right.
those are good
Yeah.
individual challenges. Yeah.
And then when I take that concept and just think about where the work is within the business, it's kind of the same thing that a lot of people don't realize. It's not like you can just run that marathon or climb to the top of the mountain without the training.
Yep,
And I don't know why we feel like it should just come if I well, or the adage of if you build it, they will come, which is ridiculous, but that's for
it
everything
is.
in our life. It's going to take work and practice and learning and training and reiterating. Like if I couldn't beat the time that I wanted to beat, then what do I need to do the next time, right?
Yeah.
That's a physical fitness analogy to, how do we show up for our business? So it's
I love that. And one of the lessons that I learned along the way was the piece about iteration.
yes.
As a creative, I was so good at, well, let's just create something new. Well, that didn't work. Let me go create something else new instead of pausing long enough to go, why didn't this work? Like, did I really not listen to my audience and really dig into what it was they wanted? Because there's times when we create the thing that we want or need, there's not always the
Mhm.
audience for that, right? And so for me, learning to iterate has been so important and to stick with something. Like I
Mm.
stuck with a publishing company and a magazine for a decade and it changed and grew, but the basics of it stayed the same. And then all of a sudden in my coaching business, I'm like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Let me try this, let me try that. And I see a lot of newer business owners doing that where they're throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying the things. Like, find your thing and stick with it. And this is why I'm so passionate about making sure that creative entrepreneurs have a hobby or an interest outside of the work. Just like you were saying, your mindful doodling. My painting practice is my personal private thing. I love to paint big. I love to paint. It is not the thing I teach. It's not the thing that I sell. It's, not the thing that,
Right.
like if I posted a painting and people are like, will you teach me how to do that? And I'm like, no, right. And this is mine. I don't even think I could teach you how to do that. But I think it's so essential that we have practices and interests. Like, I've become a slow stitching junkie, just saying. I think it
Oh,
is
how
so
fun.
much fun. And I love bookmaking, like so much fun. Those aren't the things I teach, right? They're the
Right.
things that I do just for me. And I think the thing that keeps me present in the structure of my business is to make sure I have other creative outlets so I don't feel like I have to give all of my creative energy and inspiration to my business, that it's okay to have that outside myself as well.
This is something that I am slowly but surely learning because once you start teaching art, it's really easy to say, "Oh, I learned this. I'm now like this is another skill that I have or another thing that I know how to do that people are asking." I can just turn anything into the next course to sell. And
Yep,
what happens is then you're burdened with way too many options to teach and not a whole lot of time to actually develop the next idea for yourself, right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so making a little bit of a division of what you're willing to teach, what you're willing to coach about, what you're willing to show up of, and then what you have
Yep.
just for yourself really
Hmm.
is it's only taken me how long to get to that point, but I'm getting there. And that's
Yeah.
also part of that personal development and mindset to know that not everything I do needs to be monetized. That's what it comes down to. Not
And
everything I
that's a
do needs to be
cultural belief.
monetized. Yeah, it is.
It's very much a cultural belief that we get very caught up in. Like, I remember my mom, even so my mom has a MFA in sculpture and ceramics. And, I would look at something and want to buy it. And she'd like, oh, don't buy that. I could just make it for you. Or that question of, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. You could sell that. And I'm like, it's okay for it just to be something pretty I created for myself to hang on a wall or stick in a journal, and to let go of our need. Just because we can monetize it doesn't mean we have to.
Oh, so important, really, honestly. And it's my Gen Z kids that are saying that to me that are like, "Mom, you
Yeah.
don't have to monetize everything. Can I just enjoy this?" I'm like, "You
Yes.
realize how good you are at that thing that you do?" And they're like, "Stop." I would and it's really interesting because there is a lot of push and the growth of business owners has like quadrupled in the last like
Yeah.
half
Since the
dozen years.
pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast it's
Yeah.
growing, but at the same time, there are young people like my kids that are like, "I would like to go to work, do the job, and come home and not have to think about it."
My
And
daughter's that
yeah,
way. My son is the
yeah,
entrepreneur. He struggles working for other people and relishes flexibility over everything else. And my daughter's like, I don't want the stress and the
yeah.
pressure. And my kids, like, I love that, you brought up, they are so worried about the environment. They're complaining about, minimum wage. My son's a bartender, right?
Yeah,
They get paid like a pittance, right? And he's like, I know
right.
I'm worth more than that. So, it's fascinating. They're like, my daughter's like, Mom, we're never going to be able to buy a house,
I know
right?
my kids say that too. Believe me, my heart breaks. And then I work
Yep.
harder to say, well, I got to see how I can help. Like
Yes.
they work for themselves, they take care of themselves. But if I
Yeah,
can continue to work hard, also I can provide more of a safety net. If
exactly.
if
Yeah.
for some reason
Yeah.
it never
And
gets
there's
better and it
less and
only
less
gets
of
worse.
that, right? Generationally, right? It's
Right.
like what comes down to us is less than what came to our parents, right? In terms of
Hmm.
generational inheritances. And so, yeah, we've set aside money to help the kids with down payments on houses because we think it's so important. And our financial advisors is a whole different conversation down a rabbit hole. Or like, real estate's not the investment that it used to be. You're better
No.
off investing money, right? And letting that money work and earn for you instead of, because we were going to buy our house outright. Like we just didn't want to deal with it. And they're like, no, you're not. That's not the smartest move. So, all these conversations, right? And I don't know, like how many times during this, our little time together, we come back to money, right? And
Oh, that's
money
very
being
true. We do keep coming back
so
to money.
much at the center of everything as creatives and entrepreneurs, and how much we've been taught about either you have to monetize everything or you're a starving artist. What are you doing wasting your time? You're never going to make a living.
Ugh,
And so
yeah,
these cultural beliefs, they piss me off. I'll just like, I can definitely get on a
yeah,
soapbox. And
me too.
today it's easier than ever to make money online as an artist, a creative, as an educator, as a coach, easier than ever if you're willing to do the work.
Right. And then it comes down to we think that we need to monetize everything we do. So we start to monetize, but then we don't know how to actually make money doing what we do
Right.
because we were never properly taught. It's not
Nope.
something they teach in school. You could get an MBA and not understand how to build a proper online business now,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
There's no college that can really teach what we do the way we do it. And
No.
so really the only option is trial and error. And I do think that there's a place in the beginning of it is to try things and see what sticks and what you love.
Agreed.
You don't want to go 20 years into a career and hate it, but there does
Yeah.
come a point where you have to narrow your focus and stick with something long enough
Yeah.
to figure out how it works. But why is it well, so in the 20 teens, it was like figure it out yourself, right? It was so
Yes.
much of a mountain to climb to figure
Yeah.
out how to build a business because we didn't have quite as much resources we do. Although
Mhm.
people like Marie Forleo and their B School, which love her or not, it still was very valuable through that time
Yep.
period because it was a good entry point for a lot of people.
Yep.
But now we have access to information like we've never had before. But why do we still hesitate to invest in ourselves? Because I heard this, and I don't know if you're a fan of Alex Hormozy, but I'm a little bit
I don't
obsessed
know who that is.
with his teachings because he's made a business into 100 million, right? So I like
Hmm.
hearing his point of view. And he's like, what is it costing? If you're making $50,000 right now, or you're making whatever you're making, whatever, what is it costing you to not be where you want to be? So you've got an art business and you're like me at the peak of my art business, I was maybe making $20,000 a year, right? Of selling art. And that minus all of the expenses meant that it was a nice fat tax deduction off of
Yeah.
filing jointly with my husband, right? So that
Yes.
was that advantage. But
Yes.
that's as David, my husband, said over and over again, he's like, you're working for less than minimum wage. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know this is painful. So
Yeah.
what was the cost of me not making six figures was $80,000.
Yeah.
Every year that I didn't know how to make that difference
Right.
was costing me $80,000. That's a huge
Yeah.
price to pay every year. So why wouldn't I invest in learning what I needed to know in order to get to
Yeah.
that point and beyond? And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, great, I'm making a good income, multiple six figures, but what is it costing me to not make it to $1 million if that's my goal? And I see nothing
Right.
wrong making $1 million or more, because what happens is
No.
good
And the
people make
more you
money.
make, the less profit you make anyway,
Yeah,
right? Because the more
that's true.
team you need, right? Like,
Yeah, but
yeah.
when good people make money,
Yeah.
it does end up helping a lot more good
It
people.
does.
So in my
Yeah.
opinion, that's the
100%.
more.
We hire people, we grow our
Yeah,
teams. Yeah, for sure.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm like, I really do believe in coaching the business industry, the teaching these skills if it's done ethically and good and with
Right.
actual proven results and not just a regurgitation of, song and dance on Instagram.
And also not a, hey, it worked for me, it'll work for you. Like
Right.
that does not work in the creative industries specifically,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of, so I think people often get very confused about how do you invest in a coach? like, how do you know who to choose? And I mean, I do think the ethical part is there. I think our core values need to be front and center all of the time, because what I've noticed is the more I speak out my values, the more I attract those like-minded
Mhm.
people to me. But also the more conversations that I had with creatives, helping them understand there's no one path to get from where you are to where you want to be. If you want to get from 20 to 100, there's only your path. There's a series of foundational pieces that need to be in place for any business to succeed, but how that looks in your business is going to be unique, right?
Right.
And I've always been, how can we build a lifestyle based business as lifestyle first, business second, so that you don't feel like your business is taking over your whole, right? And I think what you said was great about, like, you have to be clear about your goals. Like, I used to want to get to $1 million, and now I'm like, nah, at 58, not so much. I don't have that same drive. I don't want to have to manage a team again. Right now, it's me, my husband, and my son, and we have plenty of room for growth with just the three of us. Or
Right.
maybe, one VA, right? If we get a little bit bigger, we'll need one VA, or we'll get to where we hire someone to run the Facebook ads. So there's places where I can see opportunity for growth, but I'm pretty happy with where things are. And so I think really feeling into our own energy is like, how much money would make a difference in your family, right? It's like getting to six figures just to get to six figures. Great. It's a goal. And I love being there. Don't get me wrong, right? I've been there in every business I've had. I've hit that mark and gone over, and I love hitting that mark because that's the point where I get paid, right? I
Right.
think people aren't present to, even if you're making, 50,000, you aren't necessarily making money because so much of that is going back out in time, energy, supplies, materials,
Hmm.
software. Can we
Yes.
talk, like, just business budgets for what we spend
Right.
for
Exactly.
online technology platforms right now? It's like, whoa, between Zapier and email and teaching platforms and all the things, right? It gets, the more you grow, also the more expensive it gets to run a business. So I think just being clear about, why do you want the money? Because as soon as I get clear about why I want the money, and I'm very clear why I want to get to that next level for me, then I'm like, okay, let's go. But I think we need that clarity about, like, what's going to, getting to 1 million is going to help you help your boys buy houses. It's going to help you, right? Help them set up a business if they want, like, the freedom. It's going to help you retire at 55, like, whatever.
Or take care of your parents like you were talking about.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah. Yes.
there's that aspect too of midlife where it's like,
Yes.
it's no one tells you it's the sandwich
No.
between helping your kids finally grow up and be adults
Yep.
and watching your parents become kids again because they need
Yes.
so much from you. No
Yeah.
one tells you that until you're in it and you're like, oh, this would have been nice to know was coming.
I don't know if we knew it was coming, what, would we have done anything different?
No, but I would have been more prepared, I think, mentally
Yeah.
and financially,
Yeah.
for sure. But and this is all about like the growth, the human experience, the growth of
It is.
the
Yeah.
human experience. But
100%.
I'm with you, like really designing your life around what your wants, and instead of like life taking you on the journey, like
Right.
okay, you have no control, and it's just have ownership and make some
Mhm.
decisions and design it the way you want. I'd love to talk to you more about how you help women do that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for asking. So, the thing that I'm most passionate about more than anything else is clarity. Like, from the time I started coaching business, through all the mindset work, through doing, people call me their art therapist, but I am not a therapist. I use art as creative process for self discovery and personal growth. What I find that's missing for people, it's so simple. It's like they don't know. They don't know what they want, they don't know where they're going. If they do know what they want, they don't know how to get there. So they're completely overwhelmed, or they're trying all the things, or we're just trying to survive as women wearing caregiver roles, whether we willingly adopt those roles or not. We get put into those roles, especially with the aging parent, right? I mean, I chose consciously to be a parent to my children, and I'm invested in that role. And I don't think you really recognize how much is going to be required of you as you grow. So it's easy to flounder. How many of us all of a sudden we're empty nesters? Like, when my son left, he's my older, I grieved for weeks. There was this hole in the house. It was the most bizarre thing. By the time my little one left, I'm like, yay, here we go. Right. So I mean, I still grieved. And also, she's way better at staying in touch, and we're super close. So there wasn't that same, I think, loss of connection as there was with my son anyway. But I think that, all of a sudden, even if we have a successful career and we're really invested in the work that we're doing, things change at home. we're looking at our spouse. Brett and I've been married almost 30 years, right? And it's like, do I still like you? Do I still want to travel with you? Do I still want to spend time with you? In my case, yes. And boy, have we worked our asses off to get there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
same.
we talked about working on our parenting, but man, have I worked on my marriage as well. And have I worked on my business as well. So there's been a lot of working. And then all of a sudden we have this little bit of breathing room before we get
Yeah,
too much into the sandwich. And we go, who am I and what do I want? So I
yeah,
help women answer that question of who am I and what do I want? Like I have women in their 60s and 70s that are retired and they still want their life to have meaning and purpose,
right, for
right?
sure.
Like it's not that they need to go build a business, but they want to do something meaningful. I worked with this one woman who retired as an audiologist, and she said, I became a collector for 6 years. So she joined the Weavers Guild and bought looms, big looms, and decided she didn't like weaving. And she bought all the mixed media supplies and the bookmaking and the na. And she's like, I feel like I've just been in collecting mode, but none of it has any meaning or purpose or clarity around what I'm doing with it. And so we really helped her see that her passion is bookmaking and that she's doing this in order to nurture herself, but also to feel like it's meaningful and doing good in her community, whether she's donating the book she makes or selling the book she makes, that there's a clear path that feels like she's not being buffeted about like a sailboat in the high winds, but that she's moving forward with a lot of intention and purpose. And I think, I mean, look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? What we
Right.
all want is that self actualization. And we get to the age where we have the money, we have the time, for a lot of us, and that is a place of privilege. I
Yeah.
fully honor and acknowledge that. But retirement, all of a sudden, we have room to breathe. In our 50s, we have, like you, right? The things are changing. You have room to breathe. And then we go, well, holy shit, where'd those last 50 years go? And what's next?
Yeah, it is a little I recognize my own like excitement and dread of that hitting that 5-0 mark, right?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the life I've had and the things I've accomplished, and I'm so much more comfortable with who I am as a person. Like I know myself better now, right? I know myself a lot better than in my 20s, and I definitely have a lot more confidence. But then I also think like, am I using my time to the best of my advantage? What habits do I have now that I'm stuck with that I haven't managed to break? Not eating right, exercising, staying on my phone too long. And am I really maximizing and living the way that I want to live? Like, I know I want to be
Mhm.
working in my business. I love being present for my kids because we have a fun relationship, even if they want to blame everything that they've ever done. That's ever wrong is on me and dad. But nonetheless, we're very close. We
Mhm.
spend time,
Yeah.
even though my oldest moved out, we still spend time together. My husband and I are finally learning how to like each other again. I mean, there's no joke when you were saying marriage is a hell of a lot of work, and we're at
Yeah.
25 and we're finally like, oh, we could just go take off and go on a trip somewhere together. Like there doesn't
Mhm.
have to be like an over amount of planning other than can we
Yeah.
take time off of work? And it's really changing how we see life now that it can be so much fun at this age. But it's only going to continue if I make some good decisions and stay committed to that. I mean, my mom's in her 70s now and she's active, she's fit, she can still climb mountains, she spends days gardening and fixing her house. And like, I'm like, the only way I'm going to get there and still be moving like her is to keep active now. And so
Take
I,
care of this. Yeah.
yeah, take care of it. So like, what is the mind? Because this comes all back to mindset and
Mhm.
blocks, right?
It does.
What is holding me back from making those decisions?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you deal with people like me all the time.
All the time, all the time. In fact, I just created for my Your Midlife Renaissance program. It's like the Wheel of Life, but with categories really specific to midlife. And one of the categories is vitality, because I think that how we measure energy, that our relationship with our energy is more important than our relationship with our time.
There you go. That's a good way of flipping it. Energy versus time.
Because
Tell me
I don't know
more.
about you, I love what I do, right? And it takes a lot of energy to run a business,
Yes.
right? And I notice, so I'm postmenopausal at this point. We're talking about all the things, right? I don't sleep as well as I used
Not at all.
to. My body doesn't function as well. It's harder to lose weight. I love to walk, and I saw my primary care doctor. She's like, you got to add weights, right? Like we got to
Right.
continue to build muscle because we're losing. It's like, okay, getting stronger means that it increases my vitality, increases how much energy I have to give to the things that matter to me, whether that's my business, my family, my art, right? Going for longer walks and beautiful. We live in like one of the most beautiful places in this country. We're 45 minutes from Rocky Mountain National Park. Like it's
Cool.
just, even just walking out our front door is beautiful. I want to have the energy to explore. Right. And so if I'm not doing the things to take care of this vessel, then I don't have the energy to give. I don't want to be like my stepdad, who when he retired spent 10 hours a day sitting on the couch
Mm.
watching TV or twiddling his thumbs. Like he didn't have any hobbies or interests outside of work. And I don't want that, right? I want to be like your mom. I want to be hiking in my 70s, right? Or like my husband's really into, he's done 3 Ironman triathlons and he loves watching Ironman competitions. There's always people in their 80s completing
I know.
Ironman triathlons. I'm like, okay, I don't need to aspire to that, but where's my point of getting myself back on track from just a health perspective, so I have the energy to give to all the things that are important, which means I got to pay attention to what I eat. I got to pay attention to how much coffee that I'm drinking, which is like my favorite thing and the one vice that I'm completely unwilling to give up or cut back on, right?
Same.
Like, I have to pay attention to how much time I'm sitting versus time I'm moving, to like those functional exercises. I can't remember, one of the guys that my husband follows, he said for him when he's 80, he wants to be able to bend over, pick up a grandkid and lift the grandkid up over his head, right?
Yeah.
Like you did when you were a young dad. It's like those are functional core muscles that we have to maintain in order to do that kind of deadlift, right? So I love that perspective on energy versus time.
Right. Because we honestly, when I really think about it, I'm losing time because I have a lack of energy.
Correct. By
Right.
the end of the day, like, if you're sitting on the couch and you can't move by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a vitality issue.
Okay. I love it. What
Yeah.
about the other mindset of I'm sometimes, and I try not to really focus on the past or the future too much. I like being present, but sometimes it creeps up and I'm like, I was so cute in my 20s. I was so fit. I had so much potential, and of course, I feel like I've accomplished a lot, but there was just so much. Like, so what do we do when we're like looking at ourselves and we're like, how why are you aging? How do you come to terms with the fact that I will never be that age again? But I also know that right now I will never be this age again.
Right, right. I think that's such a beautiful question. Again, it's like the starving artist thing. It's a cultural concept that
Uh-huh.
aging is not okay, right? We live in a culture that constantly bombards us with images of youth, the right, the immortal quest for the fountain of youth. Like we're obsessed with looking young and fit and beautiful. So
Hmm.
we are never in a place of acceptance. So for me, the thing that I work the most on, because self-love is like a way far extreme, right? That we simply have to start with acceptance of really, and I love doing mirror work, just looking in the mirror and saying, oh, there you are. Oh, I like that part. My hair's not too gray yet, right? Like, just that noticing this is what it is now, because we can't go back. And for me, those kind of regrets are devastating and they have a
Right.
huge impact on us emotionally and physically, because if we're living in the past, then we can't take advantage of the beauty of the moment, right? And to live in that, for me, it's always about how can I just live in a state of awe and wonder and curiosity about what's present now. And can I be fitter and stronger? Yes. Can I be younger? No, never. Right. So, how
Right.
can I be the best version of me today? And like you said earlier about business as well, I'm the only one who can make that choice.
Right.
I'm the only
I'm the
one that
common
can walk
denominator,
out the
right?
door. Yes.
I'm the
Yeah.
common
Yeah.
denominator in the success of everything in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
I'm a
that's
big fan of Tara Brock's work on radical acceptance. And I think, it's so important to just focus on accepting what is, because when we accept what is without shame or blame, then we can change,
right.
right? When we're looking back or we're in a shame cycle, right, as Brene Brown would say, right, then we cannot move ourselves forward and we get really stuck. We get really stuck. So I think it's self acceptance is always that first step to just embracing really the wholeness of who we are, seeing, and then we can see what else is possible. And when you can see what else is possible, you get excited again. You get
Yeah.
curious. You can access your creativity again, even if that creativity is being put towards, I want to run a marathon, or I want to write a book, or I want to start a business. It doesn't matter. But when we're in the past, judgment, shame, we don't have any access to our own creativity.
Yeah, this is true. Or even the ability to show up completely in order to
Yes.
run the business or make the art
Yeah.
or being
Yeah.
a good partner to your husband. Like, yeah, I see that happening with myself from time to time too. I'm
Yeah, for
I'm really
sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad I've gotten to that point where mindset is starting to get easier for me so that I can face the challenges of business, even the challenges of motherhood or wifehood or daughterhood or whatever else in the
Yeah.
sandwich time of my life. But the mindset around the business, like once I broke through some barriers of what was possible and what was didn't need to be deemed either starving artist or bad that an artist would make money, because we live in this dichotomy,
Yes, we do.
right?
100%. Oh, so much judgment.
So
Yeah,
much judgment
creatives and
around it.
spiritual teachers both really struggle with that
Right. And then
mindset.
it's very hard because you know that like you would never question a doctor making money,
Mm-mm.
right?
No,
And
or a
there's
plumber.
or
Plumbers
a
make great
plumber.
money.
They do. I told my kids, you could study to be an electrician. They make over $100 an hour,
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but yeah, so we don't ever question that, but that means that we have to come back to the point of realizing that we're adding real value to the
Yep.
world, and to the
Yes.
the people who either experience our business or experience our writing or experience our painting or whatever. There's real value in what we're adding to the world. And so then that comes back to definitely learning that we have self-worth, which is part of my Made Remarkable philosophy, is that we don't have to become anything. We are already
Mm-mm.
made remarkable, which means we need
Yeah.
to lean into those things that make us who we are and
Yeah.
use them to our advantage to figure out. Like you said, you love to help people get clarity, and that's really where one of my passions as well, with
Mhm.
one element of my business, which really helps you define like where is your strength and where's your expertise and where's your how do you want to design your life to build a business that actually works for you rather than works
Right.
against you, right?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. That clarity is the key. We can't move forward without that. So true. And I love that about, it's like we're born with self-worth. We don't have to strive for that or struggle for it. And I think it was Tony Robbins that said, our core wound, every human being's core wound is that we're unlovable, right? And that I think when
Mhm.
we recognize that, oh, where in my life do I feel unlovable or unworthy, then we,
Ooh,
right? And I think we can move forward faster simply by acknowledging it. And I'm not talking about doing decades of therapy. I'm not talking about, having to relive all the traumas of our lives, although there's value for that. I don't know about you. I've had lots of therapy and lots of coaching of all kinds over the years. I always have a coach myself as a coach. I think it's essential that,
mhm.
I stay at the top of my game. But I think that, this is where I love artist process, but help us just witness that part of us that feels unlovable and then love it, right? Again, we're the
Yeah,
common
exactly.
denominator. We can't expect anyone else to love us if we don't love ourselves. So I think if we're always coming back to that place of just acknowledging, like, I am deserving, I am worthy, I am lovable just as I am. I don't need to be young, I don't need to be fit, I don't need to be Picasso or O'Keeffe, right? Like, I just need to be me. And I think it's been beaten out of us or into us or whatever that it's not okay, right? To just be ourselves. And I think the more that we come back, like I said, to that place of radical acceptance of, like, I'm okay as I am. And this is why I love working with women in midlife, especially in their 50s and 60s, because we just don't give a shit anymore. Like,
Yeah,
we've
finally.
worked hard enough to let go, right? Most of my clients are past the midlife crisis stage and they're not quite at the renaissance stage, but they're in that murky middle of, okay, I don't need all of this anymore, but I don't really know where I'm going either, right? Like, so I don't know about you. I spent the last 5 years, you're not quite there yet, right? Of in that soupy, murky middle of midlife going, okay, this isn't quite it. Maybe it's that. And I want to shorten. It's like you with your business coaching. How can we shorten the game for people so
Right,
that you don't
exactly.
have to spend the decades that we spent struggling as entrepreneurs or struggling as women? How can we help people
Yeah.
smooth and shorten that journey?
How do you find the people that you've worked with once they start unlocking that mindset and finding self-worth? How do you feel like that really changes their life, especially the ones who are entrepreneurs or run a business in any sense? Like what kind of level up, like in the gameplay, like
Yeah, it's
happen?
ownership, I think, is it's ownership of self, ownership of genius, ownership of responsibility, right? It's like, okay, I'm the one that needs to make this happen. I choose to make this happen. So I think recognizing that they're not being buffeted around, but they're always at choice.
Mhm.
Right. One of my highest values is freedom of choice and the consciousness that we always have to choose, right? At least in this culture. And for me, if women can start to see if they can get clear about their values, clear about their expertise, clear about the contribution they want to make, right? And then they can look at why are they afraid to take the first step? And what I found is all they need is to take that first step. Remember in the Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom when he's got to walk across the chasm and there's
Yeah,
no bridge,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes ever. Like that's how we live is so often as I think entrepreneurs and older women is we're on the edge of that precipice and we have to let go of any doubt that the bridge will appear. We'll take that step. And so for me, what I see is the growth in confidence and the growth in, oh, this is my thing. All these other things over here are fun, but this is my contribution decision to make, whether that's to my family, my community, right, or the world at large, right? So, like I'm working with a business owner right now and just helping her get past the beliefs that her time management sucks. It doesn't. What her biggest challenge is, and I discovered this through painting, not through business coaching, was she struggles to make a decision because so many people told her she couldn't her whole life, and that she just needed to come back to a place of confidence in trusting her own decision making process. Once she can do that, then everything else becomes easier.
I love that. So many good takeaways. So what I hear after this whole conversation is mindset comes first before business and marketing, before
Yes.
growth, before health, before great relationships. We have to come back to mindset, our purpose, and who we are right
Yeah,
here and our
100%.
self-worth.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you have a program that I think sounds really fun, the way you named it, Midlife Renaissance.
Yep, it's called Your Midlife Renaissance. It's a year-long program designed to help women navigate that murky middle and get to clarity. So it's part creative process, part group coaching, a lot of journaling and introspection, just taking them through. I have a signature process, a 9-step process of just helping us reconnect to our voice, our vision, our values, our purpose, our passion, and to put a plan in place and then to actually implement the plan. Planning for creatives is really fun. It's the implementation of the plans that's not so fun. And I have women with thriving careers. I have therapists in the programs. I have stay-at-home moms in the program. I have newly retired. So I have a really broad variety. And I have women from their 40s to their 70s in the program as well, every age. And you know what they're wanting the most is that community and that supportive, safe place to come. Like I had a sales call this week and she's like, I have these big decisions to face. We need to sell our house. I need to decide what to do with my business. She's been a therapist for 40 years, right? I need some place I can feel like I can talk about these big decisions that are looming on the horizon. And so I think, just with your business group coaching, what we're longing for the most right now is a safe place to talk about all the shit.
Yeah. With people who understand what we're going through.
Yeah, who've been there, who walked that path. Yeah.
For sure. So where can people find you?
Yeah, awesome. So on Instagram, Facebook, pretty much everywhere, I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. So I'm really easy to find just about everywhere. And all of my programs, one-on-one coaching and retreats can be found at minette.teachable.com. That's 1 N 2 T's, minette.teachable.com. It's a great place to see what I'm up to currently.
And everyone can go to our show notes and they will be able to find all this information to connect with you. I like to end my conversations asking one really fun question. What is your big audacious dream?
My big audacious dream is to write a New York Times best-selling book.
Oh, there you go.
And to have Elizabeth Gilbert write the introduction or the preface to the book.
You just put it out there into the world, let all the muses hear, and let it be done. Fabulous. Yes. Thank you so much, Minette. This has been
thank you,
such
Kellee.
a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great getting to know you through all of these different conversations that we're having. Ton of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.